All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. The Expanse is back, and this is my review of Exodus, the first episode of the fifth season. Now, this review will have spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode and you plan to, you should do that first, then come back and watch this video. For those who aren't familiar with The Expanse, I'm going to give a little bit about the show and what's happened previously. So, The Expanse is set in uh, it's set about a few hundred years in the future. Humanity has colonized the solar system, and it's controlled by three main factions: Earth, Mars, and the Belt. Now, Earth is the wealthiest of the three, but it's overpopulated and it has environmental problems. Mars is a highly militarized society. Its people live in sealed environments, and the Martian society is centered around the goal of terraforming Mars and turning it into a second Earth. Then there's the Belters. The Belters are a society of workers who spent their entire lives in space. They've become adapted to low or zero-G environments, and they really can't live in an Earth-like environment anymore. In Earth gravity, they could barely even stand, and the atmospheric pressure makes it difficult for them to breathe. Now, the main characters on the show are the crew of a spaceship called the Rocinante. These people are James Holden, who is the captain of the ship. Holden is an Earther. He was raised by a cult of some sort when he was young to save the world, but he eventually rejected this and he ran away. But he still, because of his upbringing, he still has this kind of savior complex where he feels he has to be responsible for everybody. The engineer of the Rocinante is Naomi Nagata. She's a Belter, and many years ago she was involved with a guy named Marco Inaros, and they had a son together. She was separated from her son while he was still a toddler, and she hasn't seen him in many years. Marco has become a terrorist revolutionary who wants to lead the Belters in an uprising against Earth and Mars, and Naomi is worried that Marco is going to get their son killed. The pilot of the Rocinante is Alex Camal. Alex is a former pilot for the Martian military, and he has a family on Mars that he hasn't seen in many years. Finally, there's Amos Burton. Amos is an Earther. Amos is from Baltimore, and he has a shady past. We know he was involved in criminal activity of some kind, but we don't really have any details. Amos is kind of a sociopath, and he's not someone to mess with. In addition to them, there's Christian Avasarala. She was the Secretary General of the UN until last season when she lost an election, and she's been reposted to the moon. She's currently working with Bobby Draper, a former Martian Marine, to uncover an illegal weapon smuggling ring, which is selling military weapons on the black market. Now, in the first couple of seasons, the governments of Earth and Mars came into possession of a substance of alien origin called the proto-molecule. They both tried to weaponize it, and that's what the first two seasons of the show was about. The crew of the Rocinante finding out who was responsible and exposing what they were doing. At the end of the second season, the proto-molecule created the Ring Gate. The Ring Gate is a space portal, kind of like a Stargate, if you've ever seen that show or the movie, but much bigger, big enough for spaceships to fly through. Now, the ring gate opens into a void which contains dozens more ring gates, each of which leads to a different alien world. Some of these worlds are habitable, and last season there was a land rush taking place as millions from Earth and Mars and the Belt began immigrating to these new worlds. This has been beneficial for Earth because Earth is overpopulated and unemployment is very high. Most of the people on Earth are unemployed and living on government welfare. It's just enough to put a roof over your head and keep the lights on, but not more than that. So the opportunities for work on the ring worlds is drawing many to immigrate. For Mars, the mass migration to the ring worlds has devastated their economy. There aren't that many people on Mars compared to Earth, and millions leaving has crippled their economy. In addition, the dream of terraforming Mars is now obsolete as dozens of Earth-like worlds exist beyond the ring gates. The Belters aren't immigrating in the same numbers that the Earthers or Martians are because it's difficult for Belters to live on them. They're more interested in controlling the ring gates, as the gate is at the edge of the solar system, and the Belters see anything beyond the asteroid field as rightfully theirs. Okay, so let's get to this episode. We start with an attack on a research vessel, which is tracking a meteor swarm, and they're boarded by a group of Belters led by Philippe Inaros, who is Naomi's son, and they take the ship's data records and they kill the scientist, and then they let the ship be destroyed by the meteor shower. We then go to Taiko Station, where the Rocinante is undergoing repairs. Now, Taiko Station is run by a guy by the name of Fred Johnson. Fred is a former member of the Earth military who carried out a massacre of Belters many years ago. He's somewhat guilt-ridden by this, and so he left the Earth military and threw his lot in with the Belters and allied with them. Now, Fred Johnson shows Naomi some footage of Philippe from another space station, so she realizes that that's where he is now. Meanwhile, Amos is on his way to Earth, and during his flight to the moon, he gets into a brawl with some goons who are shaking down other passengers for flight insurance, quote unquote, and Amos just beats the crap out of them. Back on Taiko Station, Holden is having dinner when he's approached by Monica Stewart, a reporter that he had dealings with in previous seasons. She says that she's heard someone in the belt is doing research on the proto-molecule but doesn't know who it is. She asks Holden what he knows about it, and Holden says he doesn't know anything, which is true, but after talking to her, he clearly has suspicions. On Mars, Bobby Draper is involved in trying to uncover who is behind a weapon smuggling ring on Mars for Avasarala. She makes a pickup of some material, then tries to arrange the purchase of some stealth missiles. This is a big ticket item, so the guy who's selling to her becomes very suspicious when she asks about this and says that he isn't interested, and he ends their meeting. Bobby's concerned that the smuggling ring may be shutting down their operation soon, and she needs a lot of money to lure a seller out into the open with the promise of a big payout. Now, back on Taiko, Holden confronts Fred Johnson about the proto-molecule research, and Johnson doesn't deny it. Holden tries to convince him to just destroy it, as working with the proto-molecule is just too dangerous, but Johnson just refuses. He thinks he's got the whole thing under control and refuses to get rid of it. Meanwhile, Alex is on Mars trying to reconnect with his family. He meets with his daughter, who doesn't want anything to do with him. He then calls his son, and they have a somewhat awkward conversation, but promise to meet later. Then he meets with Bobby Draper at this country western bar, which is pretty hilarious. The bar stools are horse saddles. So they get into this tense conversation, and Bobby tells Alex that he's kidding himself if he thinks he can fix his relationship with his kids, just like she hasn't been able to fix hers with her brother, and then she storms out. On Taiko, Naomi tells Holden that she knows where her son is, and she's going to find him before her ex-lover Marco gets him killed. Holden wants to go along, but she says that she'll be dealing mostly with Belters, and as an Earther, his presence will just make things more difficult for her, and Holden reluctantly agrees to stay on Taiko. Amos arrives on the moon, and he's immediately brought before Avasarala, who's been posted there to help with the immigration towards the ring gates. She hates the posting, but she wants to stay in the loop where important events are concerned, and this is the best she can do. Now, she wants to know why Amos is going to Earth, and Amos tells her that a friend died and he's just going to settle some personal affairs. Then a general arrives and interrupts them, so she sends Amos away. The general then shows her some footage of the research vessel that was destroyed at the beginning of the episode, and suggests that Marco's terrorist ring may have been involved, and that there may be more to the destruction of the ship than meets the eye. And the episode basically ends there. So this was really an excellent episode to begin a new season. Our heroes are all dispersed and going through their own personal journeys to begin this season. It's interesting how many of them are dealing with family in some way. Naomi, Amos, and Alex are all dealing with family in some way or another. Naomi seeking her estranged son, who she hasn't seen in many years, Alex trying to mend his relationship with his own kids, and Amos going back to Earth because a woman that was sort of a substitute mother to him has died. Now, we do get some foreshadowing of trouble to come. When Holden is talking to Fred Johnson, he mentions that, okay, so the worlds that exist beyond the ring gate, they have the remains of an ancient civilization on them, some of them. This civilization is referred to as the Builders. Now, the Builders were wiped out. Their entire civilization was wiped out in an instant, like millions of years ago, by some other alien race. In previous seasons, Holden has been in mental contact with a protomolecule, and because of this, when he passes through the ring gates, he can kind of get glimpses of this alien race and their society, and he knows that they're angry that humans are using the gates. Now, what impresses me most about the show is how much happens in every episode. Every episode of this show is just packed with plot and with twists and turns and surprises, and it's the best show on TV right now, in my opinion. If you compare the show to The Mandalorian, which I like, that show is barely 30 minutes long much of the time, and it still feels like it's padded out sometimes. Each episode of The Expanse is 52, 53 minutes long, and it always feels like it's shorter because so much happens every episode. The show really has no flaws that I can think of. The writing is some of the best on television, the acting is good, the production values, the effects are all good, and honestly, if you're not watching The Expanse, you're missing out. Now, Amazon has released the first 3 episodes, so I'll be reviewing the second and third episodes here in the next day or so, so please do catch those when I post them. Let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button. Also, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.